Oh my! What a day. It's glorious out here. Garrett almost went and adopted a turtle a second ago. There's one in the street, Pierre. It's just
calling me.
Yeah, no. My wife won't let me have a turtle. They are gross, so.
According to who? Come on. Turtles are fantastic.
Yeah.
They're fantastic creatures. They mutate. They get really big. They start doing karate. They're awesome.
I know. I mean, I don't know why she doesn't see this.
Yeah, I don't understand either.
Yeah, no. I'm assuming you were a fan of Friends, right, Pierre?
I watched like the first handful of seasons, and then I kind of tailed off probably the last 4 seasons or so.
Oh, well, Pierre, I'm disappointed in you as a child of the 90s. But there was an episode in the last season. Monica and Chandler were buying a house in the suburbs because they were going to adopt these twins, and they couldn't stay in the apartment. It was the setup for the end, right?
Right.
And so they brought Joey out, and then they tell him, like, hey, we're going to give you a Joey room. And he's like, oh, really? He's like, well, that's really nice. She's like, yeah, we can't have a house without a Joey room. You can come whenever you want.
Right.
And he's like, oh, that's great. And he goes, can I have a turtle and a sex swing? And and then Chandler goes, no. And then his joke is, dude, I'll keep the tank clean.
Yeah. You know what? I may have seen that episode now that I think about it. That's starting to ring a little bit of a bell. That's classic Joey.
Yeah. So anyway, Pierre, how's life? How are things in Minnesota? It is the end of October, so winter. This is where it gets Game of Thrones time, right? Where everybody walks around and says winter is coming.
It is about to be that time. However, I have to admit, it started a little bit last year, but we had 2 days in the 80s earlier this week, which is unheard of at this time of year. And in no way will you hear me complain about that. That is for sure. It's been it's a little overcast today, but we're getting into our 60s and slowly mid 50s. It's going to start dropping here, but it could be a lot worse at this time of year than it is right now. Trust me on that.
Yeah. What's Minnesota and Texas have in common is we're both really excited when it's the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
We're excited right now that it's only in the 80s.
Yeah.
Although we were like, could we just here, let's negotiate. I understand that it's hot all the time now, but can we just get the 70s? If we got the 70s, we wouldn't argue. We'll be fine with it. Here's my problem with the deal that was cut with Early Man and God.
Yeah.
They left really no room for us to negotiate. There's no look in on the contract.
Okay.
I just think that there should be a look in every millennia. And right now it's 2024. I feel like we should get a look in.
Yeah, I feel that's fair. Somebody turned to me the other day because we were talking about how unseasonably warm it was for this time of year, and they said, "Oh, I think this is the new normal for around here." And I said, "Well, you say that like it's a bad thing. Why haven't we suffered enough? What is the problem with getting 2 days in the 80s in October? I know everybody's going to talk about the frost, all the winter activities everybody likes to do up here, and they're going to be talking about the frost and all this and crap. And I don't care. It's too cold. It's too cold.
Yeah.
For the love of God, you can give me 2 80s in October, please. That'd be fine.
Yeah, I think it's those are open for negotiations. We've ratcheted too much up on the hurricanes. We need to move that back. But there are things that we can give. Again, there should be some give and take here.
Yes, I agree.
I feel like there's been 4 times it's burning, Garden of Eden, burning bush, then a couple more times after that, and then we haven't really gone back to the table. And I think there should be some things that, and then he could also clear up some things for us that we're all very confused about. I think it's time for just not like a mafia sit down or anything like that, but just a contractual redo on some things.
Yeah, I think that's only fair. I mean, every league has its own collective bargaining
Yeah,
process.
there we go.
And
Collective bargaining.
yeah, why I don't understand why we wouldn't have that a similar format in real life in terms of these things that we've, I think everything can be renegotiated at a certain point.
Yeah,
Does it not? I mean, that seems reasonable.
Yeah, I'm very big on. I don't understand our hair loss and growth patterns as we age. I think it's not fair.
That probably would be item number one on many's lists. To be honest with you,
here's the thing: I have been woken up out of the night by a nose hair that I then have to go trim. And because nose hair comes in several different forms, I've had to buy 2 different types of nose hair trimmers to make sure that I can get it. 2 different times. They're 2 different kinds.
Oh man.
Yeah, there's the one that spins and there's one that's flat.
Yeah,
So,
I own the one that's flat. I have one of those. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm familiar.
Yeah, that one kind of can do ears too a little bit better.
Yeah, yeah.
But how can I go through the first, let's say, 35 years of my life and this not be relevant to my health or necessary? Then all of a sudden, like at 35, it's just like they start popping up and they're there. And then my hair on my head gets thinner and I want that hair. I don't need anything from here down necessarily. I don't live in the woods.
Yeah, correct.
So I would like to renegotiate that we don't have to take baldness off the table if that's an important thing to you.
Yeah.
But I would like to I would like to reverse it. I would like it to start at the feet and go up. That way you have more time to get on an anti-baldness regimen if it starts to happen. Like if you notice that you're all of a sudden bald, below the ankles.
Right.
You're like, well, I better get some Rogaine. I better start, attacking this before it's too late.
Yeah, I think one of the things for me that comes to mind right away is, I mean, you have to have a certain level of functioning motor skills and cognitive, functions in your brain. And when are we gonna have the serious conversation about cutting people off of they're too old to drive? When are we gonna get? That's another issue that I think that needs to be addressed immediately. Like, well, you're 75. You're kind of pushing it a little bit, but you have to pass another test, like to show me that you can do it. That's another item I'd put on the list.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, that just might be something we can do with the government. We don't need to. But if we did get God involved, then it would make it easier for the government thing.
The Lord knows. The Lord knows. He knows what I'm about. He knows what really grinds my gears. So I feel like there's an unspoken, conversation that probably needs to be had with him about that.
I think we absolutely need an age limit on politicians.
Oh, well, no doubt. And there's no question.
Yeah.
There's no question.
I mean, it's not just like the president, right? Like politicians in general. If you're sitting in Congress or on the Supreme Court and your team, like, please don't die. Like, well, sometimes it's time to, and you're like, oh, let's hold on to Senator Robert Byrd forever. And, poor Ruth Bader Ginsburg had to like crawl into the Supreme Court at 90 pounds to do things because, it's gotten so bad. Like maybe like when you get to a certain age, you're just retired and you can go play golf and fish and do whatever you want to do. Go to the beach house. You've served the country enough. Let's just move you on. We don't need it. I can just tell you that my experience with my grandparents, my parents, any kind of senior citizen friends in my life, that when they hit 70, like that's when you're like, you know what? You guys got to relax.
Yeah.
Like, got to relax, enjoy it, find a hobby that fulfills you, all of those things. But, do I really want a 70-year-old who's done so much for us already in their life having the nuclear codes? I don't.
No,
I don't.
Not a good idea.
No.
Not a good idea.
No, I just don't. Like, I think that look, there are people that are too young to be president. You're too old. We need a nice middle ground.
Yes.
Like, I don't want a 28-year-old being president. No. I really don't. I would have thought I could have done it at 28, and I consider myself a pretty intelligent person. But now at 44, I'm like, oh, I'm glad that guy wasn't in charge.
I'm pretty sure you knew me at 28. I moved to Waco when I was 27. So I turned 28 my first year in Waco. So nobody wants that.
Pierre, I would vote for you today.
Would you?
I would vote for you today. I would not vote for you at 28.
No, that's probably I don't think I would vote for myself at 28 either, to be fair.
Yeah,
I think that's probably a good idea.
I wouldn't have done that.
No.
You know,
there's no reason. There's and I'll leave it at that. There were plenty of reasons, but we don't need to get into those reasons.
No. Look, I don't need my president like, you know, thinking like, could I pull off going to this college party? I think I can pull it off. And then having a week of depression because guess what? They figured you out.
Yeah. That's that. Life comes at you fast in that situation, and then again, if you're in charge and something like that happens, and you have access to those said codes you just mentioned, you could do something rash.
Yeah,
we don't want anybody to do anything rash off the just off the top of their head.
Now, like I remember, it happened to me when I was younger. I was like 25, I think 26 when I went to my last like college party, and I was dating a girl who was she was 21, I was 26, like.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not that weird.
No.
But like when we would go and like hang out with her friends, like even then, I would be like, look, I got the morning shift tomorrow. I got to go. And they'd be like, oh yeah, the old guy.
Yeah.
I'm 26.
Yeah.
Like
I'm in my prime.
like everything's great. Like, you know, nothing hurts. Like everything's fine.
Yeah. Come on. They don't.
I only get to pee in the night when I've had beer. Like it's fine.
and now, if I have 2 glasses of wine and I have to go to work the next day, boy, I'm going to pay for that in the morning.
Yeah.
I'm going to pay for that. The body just doesn't react the same way.
No, absolutely not. Pierre, I want to talk a couple things. We're going to talk NFL in a little while. I want to talk a couple things with you today. But first off, we're at the point now, kind of past the midway point of the college season. And this is where I did this earlier this week with Jack. Like, here's what I was wrong about. But I would like to go about with you because, and I think this is interesting, you're not a guy who changes his mind a lot. But when you change your mind, you've come to it through very measured, thought. Like you're not you're very a difficult guy to convince about things, which I respect about you. You stick to your guns. And so I thought you would be the one to kind of have this topic with, which would be, who have we changed our minds about since the season started? Maybe that we didn't have definitive opinions on, but who have we changed our minds about?
In a good way or a bad way?
Both. Any way. Okay. Yeah. Any way you want. There are 2 teams that jump to my, and 3 teams really. There's one for sure I want to go all in on, but I'll save that for the end. After LSU lost to USC in the opening week of the season, I think I was on this very show and Garrett and I were discussing, Brian Kelly and whether or not this was the right fit for this program moving forward. I'm still not convinced that this team is all the way back. And I'm a little gun shy about jumping board on them. But they're starting to, round into form a little bit here. The same thing can be said about Notre Dame. They lost to Northern Illinois. Before the season started, I had my overrated team, which was Notre Dame, and I had the team that I loved, which was Oregon. And, I'm like you said, it's very hard for me to change my mind. I'm very gun shy to jump back on LSU and jump back on Notre Dame. Not that I was ever on Notre Dame to begin with, but to really kind of give Notre Dame credit for bouncing back from that loss and getting to the point to where they are right now. I know they have a big game against Navy coming up this weekend, but those 2 teams, right, in terms of in a bad way, those are the 2 teams that kind of jumped to mind for me personally of how I was feeling just a number of weeks ago. Yeah. Notre Dame, you at the very beginning, like when we picked teams that were going to fall out of the top 25, I'm going to give you a stat in a second so you understand my true pain.
Yeah.
By the way, we both picked you picked Notre Dame. You said you didn't really think that they were going to be that great. Defensively, they're fantastic. Mike Denbrock has figured out how to use Riley Leonard the right way. This week against Navy is going to be a really awesome game, I think. It's going to be very interesting. I think they're going to get after each other really good. And they do it. They have Army, too. And Notre Dame has them on the schedule as well. And those are their 2 hardest games yet left. And they, at the beginning of the season, they're like, well, Navy and Army, they should take care of. Florida State and USC, those are going to be tough. And now you look at that and go, oh, no, that's flipped.
Yeah.
That's totally flipped. And with LSU, Garrett will even tell you, Garrett still, I mean, he's holding out.
I'm a little optimistic, man.
Yeah.
I get nervous with them.
He's starting to feel optimistic. He's going to College Station
Saturday.
this weekend. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Our good friend Mike Scarborough has got him a credential.
Perfect.
Yeah, he's all fired up about that. Garrett, have you been to Kyle Field for anything before?
This will be my third trip to Kyle Field. I went to the spring game a few years back, and then I watched them play Northwestern Louisiana or something. This will be my first real college football experience, honestly.
Yeah, this will be the one. Like, yeah, it's a blackout there,
and LSU's wearing the all white, so it's going down.
Oh man, I can't wait. By the way. I will be attending my first 2 Baylor games of the season this week and next week. So there we go.
Seriously?
I'm addicted to YouTube TV on Saturdays.
Yeah.
And we had now that our parent company, Sigma 365, we have 6 people at the game. So it's not like I proved it last year. I was only there for 3 games last year. And, our work got done. And Garrett and I got to watch way more games. A lot. And then now this year, I have YouTube TV, which you can put 4 games on at once. You can quad it up. And it is, look, I would never do heroin. I've seen the results of heroin, right?
Yeah, it's not good.
But if this is what heroin is like to those people, I understand now, maybe a little bit more, because my gosh, I love it.
This is a much healthier addiction for you. Much
healthier.
Oh, yeah.
No, I love it. I've sat in press boxes before where every chance I got during the game I was covering, I would run to the wall of TVs. I've done it, at AT&T Stadium many times. Actually, my favorite part of going to cover games at AT&T for the Cowboys was you just sit around with all the NFL writers and here's John Clayton and Ed Werder and Shireen Williams and, all these people that are covering the games and Jeff Darlington, who actually I've known since we were teenagers, So you sit there and you watch the game and you're just watching the game with the Illuminati of NFL reporters, and you're watching and talking football with all these people. And that was awesome. The Cowboys mostly play at 3:00. You go for the noon kickoff and they've got every game on every screen and we're just all watching oh my gosh, that's football watching right there.
Yeah. Oh,
you know exactly what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Funny enough, I haven't been to a Vikings game in 5 years, even though I've covered the team. But but that's a whole logistical issue that the fans don't really care about me not being in the games on Sunday. But there were times where I would look around up in the press box. I was like, oh, that's so and so, and then suddenly Steve Levy pops in for a game, and looking around, and I said, Josina Anderson's over here, and that was oh well, do I belong here? Do I belong up in this press box? Am I qualified enough to be here with these people? Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, no, we're hello, Ed Werder, may I sit here? I'm yeah, sure, come on down. yeah, it is you have that. That's also weekly imposter syndrome that I had every single time. Yeah, every single time.
I'm here to tell you though, buddy, you belong. You belong.
Thank you.
You belong up there, up there at the top where the air is crisp. Yeah, that's where you belong.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. So do you.
Yeah, so I try.
But yeah, no, it's so I don't go. And actually, here's the thing: the next 2 weeks, I actually won't be, and I'll make a trip up there. But I will be, for the first time since McLean Stadium opened, watching the game from the stands because my wife and I have some friends, John and Christy Villade, and they have invited us to these games to go sit with them in their very nice seats. We're going to go sit with them. So I'm actually getting to kind of maybe split the difference because these are pretty damn good seats. So, but I'm very excited about it. I've never we were at dinner a month ago and he's like, yeah, you guys need to come to some games with us. And Amanda's like, yeah, I'd love to go to games and all that. And she's like, well, Paul, he doesn't ever sit in the stands at games. I was like, yeah, I don't it's weird. So I'm finally going to go get that experience. So
yeah, it's rare that we get to, it's a lot more rare these days for people like you and me to get to be a fan, to be at a game and not be working. The only time I can remember doing that over the last couple of years really was a random Minnesota Wild San Jose Sharks game back in March. I got to put the Sharks sweater on, got to have fun in the sand. But but I paid my own way, obviously.
Yeah.
But in terms of that's a rarity for us these days, me and you.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. And sometimes you go to the stands as a fan, not in the stadium you go to. Now, look, when SMU played FSU, I got credentialed so I could go up and meet the people at SMU and some of the FSU people media-wise, but
Right.
I was like, I was not going to work that game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've done that. Yeah, we kind of do that from time to time. Every once in a while, I'll be like, I'll just use my credential to get in and I'll mingle. But that's about the extent of it. I'm not really working.
But no one cares. It's not like a big, you have to be. To do that, you have to be someone they recognize as a worker. Like, this guy works every other time. Like, oh, he's going to enjoy it today. That's what you do. But I'm going to give you a stat about. And look, I'll admit I was wrong about Florida State.
Okay.
So here's the stat. This is from Tim Reynolds. He's a sports writer. Covers. I'm sure you probably read him. He covers the NBA. He covers everything. He covers Miami. He covers the Dolphins.
Yeah.
So it's Tim Reynolds. He's out of Miami, and I sent this to the guys today. And Garrett, I'm sure you laughed when you read this. Mm-hmm. There are 661 NCAA football programs in this country. There are 25 that have not scored more than 21 points in a game this season. There's one FCS school, 5 Division II schools, 18 Division III schools, and 1 FBS school, and that's Florida State.
Oh, no. Oh boy.
So 24 schools that Florida State, 18 of whom they would never play, 5 of whom, 23 of whom they would never play, and only 1 of whom they would play to come and play them, the FCS school. So the D2 and D3 schools, not ever going to play them.
Right.
So, yeah, they're not out. There's only 1 school that they would ever even, consider playing, and it would only be like, here's $1 million for your athletic department. Let us run over you. And even then, since they haven't scored 21 points in a game, that might be a friggin' toss-up. So 21 points in a game, I did the math earlier. So Mike Norvell makes $10 million a year, and he actually calls the plays. Mm-hmm. So the offensive staff already has $10 million dedicated to it. Their offensive line coach and offensive coordinator, Alex Atkins, makes $1.25 million. Ron Dugans, the wide receivers coach, makes $625,000. $500,000 for Tony Tokarz, the quarterbacks coach. $550,000 for David Johnson, the running backs coach, and $625,000 for Chris Thomason, the tight ends coach. That comes to a grand total of $13.35 million to not score 21 points in a game. Do you understand my pain? Do you understand my pain?
I
will go through this again on the later show, just so you know. This is going to take multiple therapeutic sessions.
Yeah, this is a situation where I'm at a party and somebody is having like an outburst, and I am looking around at everybody else at the party. I'm like, I don't really know what to do right now. I'm starting to get a little uncomfortable. I'm starting to get a little uncomfortable knowing that Paul could absolutely go off the rails at any moment right now, because that stat is actually absurd. It is like you would actually have to try to not score 21, especially in a non-conference matchup. You would think in a non-conference matchup at the beginning of the season, you would get to at least at bare minimum 30. But
so they have only played 1 non-conference game so far.
Right.
And that's Memphis, who, again, that's a good team. So
yeah, sure.
Yeah. They've had it but
it's almost impossible for something like that to happen, especially for a program like that. But yeah, man, that's woo-wee. That's a tough one. But thank you for bringing that to my attention, because I did not know that stat actually going into today.
You mentioned the party metaphor. I'll tell you, this is what happened. I'm the guy at the party who walked into the bathroom and my girlfriend was making out with another dude.
Right.
That's what I just found out. That's the same kind of emotion.
Mm-hmm.
Or I felt or I was just talking to you, and then you mentioned oh yeah, I saw Tina out the other day. And I'm like, what? What do you mean the other day? She was in Denver. And you're like, no. Monday, I saw her out. I said hello. She didn't tell you I saw her? And you're like, wait a minute, what? She told me she was in Denver.
Dude, over $13 million for that staff?
Yeah.
That
all of them got raises last year.
Well, I mean,
but here's the thing. he had the opportunity because their contracts were up to say, hey, we're 13-0. You guys go get your other jobs. Like, let somebody else spend the money on you and let me bring in like some other coaches who may be more established and want to ride this train. He didn't do it. So,
given the way the season ended last year for them, though, I think when you headed into this season, I don't think anybody would have fought you on that, or fought the decision to give those guys races with the way the season ended last year. I don't know if anyone could have foreseen what has transpired this season with Florida State. I certainly did not. It is honestly the most baffling story in college football this year to me. It really, out of all the teams I've done well, surprises, disappointments, Florida State's fall from grace is, in my opinion, the most shocking story of college football this season, in my opinion.
Yeah. Like, if they weren't going to be as good, that's one thing, Right. And now to go on teams I've also changed my mind about, I've changed my mind quite a bit about a lot of teams in the SEC. Mm-hmm. Ole Miss is one I've changed my mind about. I thought they were going to be loaded for bear, and losing to LSU is one thing. Losing to Kentucky, a team that also struggles to score 21 most weeks. They don't have a great offense. Liam Cohen is now with the Bucs and doing a pretty dang good job with Baker Mayfield there, in spite of the fact they lost the other night, I know. But like, if you look around the SEC, I'm not impressed with – I haven't been impressed with Missouri yet. I have been impressed with Texas. Tennessee's offense is wonky. Carson Beck is not as good as advertised. LSU and A&M are actually better than I thought they would be, and they play this weekend, obviously. Alabama's worse than I thought they would be. I thought they'd be able to maybe maintain a little bit. I thought this was coming next year because, Milroe's so good and all these other things, but they have other problems, particularly their defense. But I don't think I was wrong about Florida, but their schedule, at least to this point, has actually worked out a little better for them, where they've won some of the games I thought they would lose. Although I think the hammer's coming in the next few weeks. They got to go to Texas, and all that. But Billy Napier's kept his head above water. But of all those teams, Ole Miss is the one I think I'm most disappointed in, because this was the if not now when year, for that. And if you look at right now, they're 5-2, which is not bad. They scored 290 points. They've given up 74. But if you look at the most critical games, that's when they've given up most of those points. And most of those, big blowouts for their defense were in the early part of the year, where their non-conference schedule was very weak. They played Furman, Middle Tennessee, Wake Forest, and Georgia Southern before they got going, and gave up a grand total of 22 points in that. And then since then, the 27-3 against South Carolina, that was a nice win, but losing 20-17 to Kentucky and then losing at LSU, they just haven't looked like they're a playoff team to me.
Yeah, and they were certainly on my consideration, in terms of the list that we're talking about here, and I don't think you're wrong in your assessment of them at all. The other team for me that I was holding off on, and this was a team you and I discussed this last week when we were talking about this team. Indiana has gone from that's cute, that's a cute little team over there. Boy, isn't that a cool story? So now you have my attention, because last week, even though I didn't come out and say that I thought Nebraska would win the game, I kind of felt like Nebraska would come out and win the game against Indiana. And not only, Paul, did Nebraska not win the game, they got boat raced off the field by Curtis Rourke in this offense. This team, I know game day is going down there this weekend, and when you look at the schedule the rest of the way for them, the only team that really kind of scares you is Ohio State, and Michigan is on the schedule for them the rest of the way. And I'm thinking to myself, why wouldn't Indiana be capable of beating Michigan at this point? Why wouldn't they? So Indiana has gone from a cute story to me, to I think that it's about time we really start taking this team seriously, for sure.
They're blowing everybody out, man.
Yeah. And that was the thing for me at the beginning of the season. I didn't take them seriously, because when you look at their non-conference too, to begin the season, their first 3 games was an absolute cupcake schedule. So that played a huge role into me thinking, well, okay, we'll see how things go once you get into the meat of the schedule. but they have been consistent in the way that they have just rolled past teams week in and week out.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And again, I've changed my opinion about Army and Navy both, just because they're like throwing the ball a little bit more, and they're like their offensive defensive lines are really good. And I would not like, I would be so terrified if it does come out that one of those teams winds up as the, highest ranked G5 team, which I still think might be a little bit hard for them. But the thing is that they have to play each other, and they might have to play each other twice, in a row, which if that's the case, then that's going to be bananas.
Yes.
But they do have to play each other. And then they'd be in the playoff. Now you'd have maybe a little bit more time, but if they would be the 12th seed. If I was the 5th seed, I'd be like, of all the people, So, and here's the other thing that's crazy about that, and then we'll move on to the next topic after the break. But here's what's crazy. So right now, your options for that 12th seed, the highest ranked group of 5 team, which will more than likely be the 12th seed. Like, I doubt they're going to get 11 or 10 or something like that. They'll be the 12th seed, are the Heisman Trophy frontrunner and Army and Navy, who nobody likes playing because of having to teach people, a veer or a triple option or whatever offense. That's the name of this show. But having to teach those offenses in a week or 10 days when none of them know those blocking concepts, know any of that motion, it's all over the place. It's so different than anything they've ever played. You kind of go to your kid who's at the smallest high school with like, please tell me you guys ran the wing T. Like, nope, we even ran the spread. Damn it. Like, you're from Pig's Knuckle, Arkansas. How did you run the spread? Power eye, anything? Wishbone?
This is going to be the most anticipated Army-Navy game in how many years do you think, Paul? How many, 30, 25, 30?
Maybe. I mean, like, they were like, but even then, like, the last time they were both good, it was 2 7-4 teams, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't 2 teams that are probably going to be at least 9-2, or 10-1, maybe.
Right. I can't wait for it. I know I'll be watching. That's for sure.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I love that the powers that be in the playoff were like, well, we don't want to move the Army-Navy weekend. That's sacrosanct. We can't mess with that. And like, well, what if they're good enough to be in the conference championship game against each other the week before? And they're like, that'll never happen. Come on. What are you talking about? Oh, gosh. Whoa, come on. Look at this guy. He's got jokes. He's got jokes.
You're exactly right. That is exactly what I would imagine would take place. You're not wrong by one inch.
Like later on at dinner, they're like, "Do you remember when Carl said that thing about Army and Navy? Oh my God, get Carl a couple beers on me. That was hilarious. He made the day." Oh,
I couldn't agree more. Could not agree more.
Carl just sending the top 25 this week, going, "Oh, I'm not such a jokester now, am I?"
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, keep putting those beers on his tab, please.
Yeah, absolutely.